Yeah, multi-layered. First of all, I feel a little badly. I mean, it's the first official scalp of the tackle that turned the tide.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, had Mahomes not make that strip sack and the Giants win that game, Brian Daboll still the
A butterfly flaps
right, exactly. And so there is that. I also think this is not complicated. He got 4 years. They were consistently awful. And you said it, but it's a little more jarring than that. He started his head coaching career 7-2. After that, his team went 13-38. So you win 7 out of your first 9. You then win 13 of your next 50. You're in trouble. And I thought that maybe it could have the Jaxson Dart Daboll connection could have saved him.
Yeah.
But I think he at times was his own worst enemy, and he seemed to want it so bad and be so tightly wound that whether it was running into the tent when Jaxson got hurt or not being able to resist the, angel on his shoulder as far as maybe cut back on the quarterback-driven runs with our lunatic rookie quarterback who leads with his head, those things worked against him, and he had bad injury luck. So, with Neighbors and Scadaboo and now Dart as well. So all those things come together. You started the last 3 years 2-8, 2-13, 2-8. You're just going to get fired from anywhere. That's not a New York thing. That's just your record is what your record is thing. So that's my reaction, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I watched TV last year and I saw the GM talk about Saquon Barkley, and I don't need him. I mean,
Unwise.
I mean, he's okay, but and the Eagles, they're probably not going to take him. So that happened, and then Saquon goes and has an MVP season, and they keep Daniel Jones, which makes a lot of sense because you want to keep the quarterback, but then they don't really have the offensive line in position to protect him. I mean, Daniel Jones could have filed charges against the Giants last year for how he got beat up game in and game out with that protection. So then they get rid of him. So now they're eating the dead money on Daniel Jones, who they signed because they didn't want to sign Saquon Barkley, or they couldn't do both, and then they let him go, and now he's tearing it up in Indianapolis. So you wonder, are these all coaching errors? Are they personnel errors? Because then you've got to go replace the running back. You've got to replace the quarterback. You've got to replace all those different elements. And I spent some time at camp this off season, and Brian's a very good coach. He was coach of the year, and he can obviously do that at a very high level. It didn't work out. The injuries didn't work out. And we all know going into it that at some point we're going to get fired. Everybody gets fired from these jobs. Very few guys get a chance to leave on their own terms. So I'm sure he's disappointed. I'm happy that he has 1.5 years left on his contract. You can go spend some nice quality time with your family, relax, decompress, and then, do whatever else he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, like Nick, you said, it's just a case of the record. I mean, when your record is what it is, 20-40-1 overall with the Giants, you're going to get fired. And then I think, Coach, the nature of the losses recently.
Well, that's the blowing those huge leads.
The four double-digit leads in losses on the road that they had, and then 2, they became only the second team since the merger to lose 2 games where you led by 10 or more points with 4 minutes left.
Okay, we're just having the wrong conversation here because, listen, Brian Daboll was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And you could say, it'll be interesting to know whose actually decision was it to officially start Russ for the season. Was it Brian Daboll? Was it ownership GM? What's the actual? We don't actually really fully know. But what do we do know? We know Brian Daboll wanted Jaxson Dart. That's what we do know. We do know that Jaxson Dart is a rookie quarterback that is going to have ups and downs. He's going to make bad decisions. He's going to have awesome moments as he's shown, and he's going to make some mistakes. But then you take away Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, like you take devastating injuries and now have the whole world on Jaxson Dart's shoulders, who's succeeding, by the way, and Brian Daboll is doing a good enough job with him. And yeah, you lose a rough game to the Denver Broncos, which was historic, but like Jaxson Dart both played brilliant in that game and then also had a devastating interception. Okay. as well as the defense not answering the call. And even if we now just use this game against the Bears, Jaxson Dart doesn't get knocked out of that game. They're probably doing pretty well here. They probably come away with that win. Now, if you want to blame him for the previous years, again, like Manini kind of pointed out, it's just like, well, he had no O-line. He had a GM that's getting rid of Saquon Barkley, right? Like you're having all of these types of situations. So I'm not even trying to defend Brian Daboll from not being fired, but what I will say is this. You have a rookie quarterback who's going to have a direct relationship with that head coach. You are now severing that relationship, and not now, just at least finishing the year there could. Even if you're going to fire Brian Daboll at the end of this year, just keep him, because now you're losing time for Jaxson Dart to develop, unless you have like the offensive coordinator or something that you know that you're hiring, and you're like, I want that relationship to start now with Jaxson Dart and him, that's fine. But that's not the case that the Giants are in right now. So now you're potentially losing weeks of development, weeks of conversations, film study, etc., insight with Jaxson Dart. You're losing developmental time right now. And say what you will about Brian Daboll. If you think that he is a bad decision maker, bad play call, just a bad head coach, he still knows offense. And there is still just a treasure of gold for Jaxson Dart to learn from Brian Daboll in that regard. There just is. There just is. Brian Daboll has had a ton of experience and a ton of success working with quarterbacks. So again, you could say, listen, he is not a good offensive head coach. We do not want him to be the head coach. He makes bad decisions. He doesn't know how to run a team. He doesn't know blah, blah, blah. All that can be 100% true. All of it can be 100% true. We can put all the blame on Brian Daboll if you want. All of it. You could say it was his fault they didn't have a good enough O-line. You could say it was his fault that they did this whole song and dance with Daniel Jones. You could say it was his fault why they got rid of Saquon Barker, which, again, I'm not saying it is, but let's just say it is. You still wouldn't want to fire him in this situation because, at the minimum, he's a quarterback coach with your rookie quarterback who's played only a handful of games right now. And if you want to say, oh, he was putting, he wanted it too bad, and so he was risking Jaxson, that's a bunch of nonsense. That is such a bunch of nonsense. I mean, I reject that so much. That's just ridiculous. Why don't we say that about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes? I reject that wholeheartedly. It was his fault Scadaboo got injured. Malik Neighbor, that's all nonsense. And what would this offense look like if he had an actual wide receiver one and running back? What would this team would look completely different? This offense would look completely different. So again, the overarching decision making, Brian Daboll absolutely can be criticized undeniably. But if you're looking at hey, we are in the Jaxson Dart future. We are in the Jaxson Dart era for this New York Giants team, and if deep down I want to move on from Brian Daboll, that's fine. But at least just use this as saying, hey, this season is lost, but we still want Brian Daboll to help develop and evolve and grow Jaxson Dart. And listen, let's say you thought that Brian Daboll was hanging him out to dry too much. Let's say that's true. Well, then you still have the power to go to Brian Daboll. I don't want you doing these plays that put Jaxson Dart in a position to get hurt. I do not want that. If you do that, we will fire you. You will be fired. We do not want that. We do not. We want a max 2 designed runs a game, and they better be designed in a way that get this kid down. We want you just to develop this guy. We don't care about winning right now. We have a terrible record. We keep losing. We don't care about that right now. We just want you to continue to develop Jaxson Dart. Keep him safe. Work on stuff. Work on reads. Whatever you think, you tell us actually right now. What do you think he needs to work on? What are some of the aspects that he needs to be developed on? Okay, X, Y, and Z, great. Work on that, work on that. The Giants hold the power, they hold the cards. And if Brian Daboll wants it so bad, your whole say, okay, sure, whatever you want. Sure, I'm a team player. Whatever you want. But firing him right now, you have all this extra disruption, a new voice now, a new voice in Jaxson Dart's head. It just becomes a lot to deal with. It becomes a lot to deal with. And so just from a strictly developmental part for your young quarterback who's set to take over for New York, you're doing yourself a disservice in that moment. That's my core issue with with firing Brian Daboll. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys think about the New York Giants firing Brian Daboll? What do you think this means for them? Do you think it was appropriate? Do you think it makes sense? How do you think this impacts Jaxson Dart? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.